Keone Pearson, dominating the 212 division. Let's kick off today's video with an exciting update on two-time 212. Olympia champion Keone Pearson. He's been steadily increasing his strength in the gym, moving some incredible weights throughout this off-season. When all this intense training finally manifests on stage at this year's Olympia, he's poised to absolutely dominate the 212 class once again. I've mentioned numerous times that Pearson operates on an entirely different level. His dominance in the 212 division has reached a point where, if he stays in this category, it might become predictable because we'll already know who's taking home the trophy every year. Most experts agree he's the greatest 212 competitor of all time, possibly even surpassing seven-time 212 Olympia champion Flex Lewis. When a legend like Jay Cutler speaks highly of Keone's potential in the men's open class after he transitions, it confirms that Pearson is a legitimate Olympia contender, even against the heavyweight competitors. Jay recently compared Keone to Ronnie Coleman in the making, perhaps the highest compliment any bodybuilder could receive, considering the widespread agreement that Ronnie is the greatest of all time. Could Keone crack the top 5 at this year's Mr. Olympia if he competes in the men's open? Logic suggests he couldn't defeat someone like Andrew Jacked, who brings both massive size and aesthetic perfection. But remember, didn't Martin beat Andrew at last year's Olympia? Labrada did too. Keone Pearson compares favorably to Martin, potentially even surpassing him. Keone possesses one of the most impressive X-frames in bodybuilding history, with proportions that few would dispute. His hamstrings last year were simply phenomenal, and the way he transformed his back, especially the upper region, was remarkable, turning a previous weakness into a strength in just 1 year. What do you think? Could Keone place in the top 5 of the men's open if he makes the jump this year? Goodvito, anticipated Olympia debut. Next, we have a 20-week-out physique update from Goodvito as he prepares for his first ever Mr. Olympia appearance. Arguably one of the most anticipated debuts we'll witness this year. Is it realistic to expect Goodvito to place in the top 10 or even higher at his first Olympia if he arrives more shredded than at the Arnold Brazil? In my assessment, absolutely. I'm glad he secured his Olympia qualification early, which allowed him to skip this year's Pittsburgh Pro. Goodvito will be the youngest competitor on the Olympia stage this year, which is an impressive achievement regardless of his placing. With his aesthetic physique and shape, he'll likely climb the Olympia rankings with each passing year. It's unfortunate we didn't see him at the recent Pittsburgh Pro alongside top names like Derek, Nick, Martin, Reagan, Krizo, and William Bonac. While I'm not suggesting he would have defeated all of them, he certainly would have made them nervous in poses like the front double biceps and most muscular. Since earning his pro card, Goodvito's physique has evolved tremendously. The consistent factor across all 3 of his pro shows is that he always arrives in excellent condition. At this year's Arnold Brazil, he was conditioned well enough to win handily against competitors like Leandro Perez. That said, he needs more separation, detail in his side leg, and arm thickness in the side chest pose. Improvements that will naturally come with time. Again, Goodvito's Olympia debut will be one of the most anticipated events this year. Hadi Choopan. The Persian Wolf returns. Let's check in on the Persian Wolf Hadi Choopan with his 20-week-out update. Prepare to see some of the most impressive lifts you've ever witnessed, as Hadi never backs down from heavy training. He goes all out in every gym session, even during competition prep. Just look at the size of his delts. It's logical to expect Hadi will be at least a few pounds heavier at this year's Olympia, having enjoyed a proper off-season after taking an entire year off. If you asked Samson Dauda who among Derek, Nick and Hadi could push him the hardest as his biggest rival, his answer would likely be Hadi Choopan. Samson stood beside Hadi at last year's Arnold Classic, where Hadi brought his best ever condition without question. No one brings that level of detail, condition and sharpness like Hadi does. Perhaps Nick Walker comes closest, but even Nick cannot match Hadi's razor-sharp definition. We also know Nick has structural limitations, while Hadi masterfully poses round after round without breaking a sweat, maintaining incredible midsection control even during post-show interviews. Looking at Hadi's competition record, he's the most consistent athlete when it comes to elite conditioning. Ironically, even when Hadi is off by his own standards, he's still the most shredded competitor on the Olympia stage. I can't wait to see what new improvements Hadi brings to this year's Olympia. Matthews Minate, rising star in Classic Physique. Now for an update on one of the biggest rising stars in the Classic Physique division, Matthews Minate from Brazil. When you place in the top 9 at your Olympia debut, defeating 50 of the world's best competitors on your first attempt, you're clearly destined for greatness in the coming years. We all know how fierce the competition is in Classic Physique, and Matthews is truly the real deal. Structure is what separates the elite from the rest, and Matthews has that ideal framework. He previously lacked chest development, but looking at his peak off-season updates, he's added significant muscle mass that will become more visible as he gets closer to competition condition. He's approximately 11 weeks out now. Examining his quads, his muscle insertions combined with his narrow waist and wide shoulders create the perfect X-frame and V-taper. It's no surprise that Terence Ruffin mentioned Matthews when discussing potential breakthrough athletes with G Tiger. If I had to think of anyone else who could push into that last spot outside of Logan, it might be Matthews Minate. His structure is amazing, though he might need a bit more size and better conditioning. Matthews' 7-month transformation last year was mind-blowing. If he continues progressing at that rate, he'll surprise many people at this year's Olympia. Stefan Matala, massive off-season update. Stefan Matala checks in at a massive 277 pounds in this incredible off-season update. This has to be one of his best looks yet, those full triceps reminiscent of the great Kevin Levrone. It's hard to believe he was cutting down to 220 pounds for Classic Physique competitions. Stefan looked his absolute best at last year's Portugal Pro, which was also his final show in Classic. He won that competition and qualified for the Olympia, with Patrick Tour as his coach. Patrick admitted there's only so much they could manipulate to preserve muscle while getting Stefan into peak condition. He was always going to lose some muscle mass in the process. What's particularly impressive about Stefan's current look is how he's added substantial muscle while maintaining good body composition. Rumors suggest Stefan will make his men's open bodybuilding debut at the France Pro later this year, scheduled for late September, the last pro qualifier before this year's Mr. Olympia. This will be one of the most anticipated men's open debuts of the year, as bodybuilding fans have long hoped to see Stefan make the switch from Classic to the open division. We've been eagerly waiting for this moment. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to Bodybuilding Nation for more updates on your favorite competitors.